Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be trying a microwave flower press in this video. This is the Etcokei. This was sent to me by Resiners, who sent me the Bubblesless Vacuum chamber for resin. Same company. They emailed me and asked me if I'd like to try this out, test it out, basically see if it works. I said absolutely yes. This is a multi-layer flower press kit that goes in your microwave. Like, it has been around. There's definitely already hundreds of videos on YouTube using similar kits, if not this exact kit. So on opening it up, I realize we've got two plastic outer cases. I didn't count individually, but I want to say there's around 8 or 10 individual cotton or like poly cotton sheets, which are to go in between the layers. And then we've got 5 chunky real wool felted sheets. I was excited that they were real wool, honestly, like they're not synthetic in any way. So we've got 5 of those, and then we've got a ton of cotton sheets to go in between, and we've got our 2 outer casings and 2 rubber bands to hold it all together while you put it in your microwave. Now, again, I've said I've never used anything like this, so I read the instruction kit front to back. It's very small, it's very, very clear. I read it front to back, every single line twice, just because, you know, I want to make sure if I'm testing this, then I'm doing it right. I haven't done anything wrong in between. There's a very clear, easy to see and easy to understand visual on how the unit goes together. So I just want to show you that first. You put your plastic outer casing down on the bottom, followed by a felt sheet, followed by a cotton sheet, and this is where you put your flowers. Let's pretend we have some flowers right now. On top of the flowers goes another cotton sheet, followed by a felt pad and your outer casing. That is as simple as it gets. You then tie this around with the 2 rubber bands that have been provided in the kit, and it is ready to go in the microwave. The rubber bands are quite thick. They're really nice and chunky. I don't think they're going to get any wear and tear anytime soon. And if in doubt, I might use them as a hair tie because, you know, I lose them all the time. Really simple. Like, it couldn't be any more simple. I always get worried with new things that I wouldn't understand how to use them. But for me, it was very clear. The instructions were so clear. And it says most flowers need more than 1 burst in the microwave. The felt pads are made of pure wool. Sometimes they will emit an odor. And it says the most common mistake when using this is burning. So you want to make sure that you follow the instructions to ensure that we do not get any burning on this at all. Also, on the next page, it talks about pressing tips. So it's recommended to spray the felt pads before use. It's also recommended that you don't necessarily start with big flowers, that you kind of have a play first with your smalls and your flat petals and all of the little things. Just get the hang of it first and then kind of build your way up to bigger flowers and more flowers with more detail on them. I don't know how else to word it. The first thing we need to do with this kit is to prime it. So I went outside and I grabbed some lavender. I left thousands of lavender heads for my bees. Don't worry. The only flowers we have in our garden right now are like lavender and these little purple flowers. And then none of them are slim. None of them are like petals. But first we have to prime the pack before we use it. So we're going to prime it using the water. This is just normal tap water, and it says here we need to prime by spraying or sprinkling onto the fabric sheets. It doesn't say felt pads at this point. It says spraying onto fabric sheets, but it also does say felt pads further in the book. So I just sprayed a bit of both. So I gave the felt pads a light spray. Then I gave the fabric sheets a very light spray as well. We're not soaking, we're not saturating. It really is a fine mist of water over the felt pads and the sheets. And I assembled the pack as per the instructions. I bound it together with the rubber bands, and then I put it in the microwave for the 10 to 15 seconds on full power that they recommended. Now, In this instruction manual, it also talks about different microwave powers. So definitely get it right with the power of your microwave and you should be good. This was 15 seconds later and you can see the heat, the sweat that is emitting from the bottom of it on my very damaged wooden worktop. You can see it's already coming through. And honestly, taking it apart, I was quite surprised already that after just 15 seconds, it felt bone dry. I was thinking, I've wet this. I'm sure I've wet this. But it felt really dry at this point. And now it was time to put it back together. Now, I'll be honest, my first instinct was thinking, how is this going to dry flowers when it's so wet? Like it's not saturated and soaked, but it's wet. I've sprayed the felt pad. I've sprayed the cotton sheet lightly. And I thought, I'll do what the instructions tell me to do and I'll just be good and I'll start small. I'm going to just trim off and clip off lots and lots of the lavender flowers for my first attempt, because it does say, you know, don't go full steam ahead and slap a big massive rose in on your very first attempt. Get used to it, see how it works with your microwave power and just go from there. So I've sprayed both felt pads, I've sprayed the sheets, I've laid in my lavender flowers, I just cut them off, and then I'm binding it together. Now, the instructions in this manual give you different bursts. So each section has 3 bursts. So if I'm putting a giant flower in there, 3 bursts of 150 and another 25. After each burst, it's recommended to take it out of the microwave. Take it out of the microwave. If it's really wet, you can wipe it down. Just make sure that nothing is overheating and nothing's burning. Equally, flip it over so that the flowers get an equal kind of heating. What you don't want to do is remove the flowers from the press. Do not, open it up and move the flowers in any way. Don't lift them up. Don't do any of that. Just do it right. So for me, 100 seconds, 45 seconds, 25 seconds. That's it. 100 seconds, 45 seconds, 25 seconds is what I am putting in my petals. This is crazy to me. This is like, how is that 100 seconds, 45 seconds and 25 seconds going to dry out flowers that would take days, if not a couple of weeks, in silica gel? So quite honestly, I was a bit nervous. So my worktop, as you can see here, it's already destroyed and ruined. But taking this out of the microwave, I placed it down onto my worktop and I was clearly able to see that the sweat was real. I did remove it after each burst, but it wasn't wet on the outside, so I didn't feel like I needed to wipe it down. Even though it says remove excess sweat, I didn't need to. So I don't know, straight away I thought I'm doing something wrong. But you can see my worktop here. You can see the heat that is coming from the felt, from the moisture in the felt and in the fabric. I left it for around about 30 minutes to cool down completely. Do not open this until it is cold to the touch. Any warmth whatsoever, leave it for another 10 minutes. Don't touch it. I don't know why I'm so easily pleased, because the minute I removed the felt, I was like, ooh, that's a pretty embossing. My first initial thought was how dry and crunchy everything felt. Like the material, the thin poly cotton or whatever it is, it felt crunchy to touch, really dry. So straight away I was like, wow, okay, this is crazy cool. This has worked. Everything is bone dry. Again, I don't know what I expected. Ideally, you want it to do what it says on the tin, but I couldn't wrap my head around how something so wet could produce something so dry. Does that make any sense? Also, I was also impressed with the flattening. Now, yes, it's a flower press, Claire. What did you expect? I genuinely thought, with the felt pad being so squishy and the material, I didn't think it would flatten, like really flatten. Like if you were to put a flower in between 10 books for a couple of weeks, it would come out paper thin. I didn't expect that with something that was so soft. But I did the whole sheet pull thing to try and get these off. It was easier for me at that point to kind of scrape them off. And they were dry, like dusty, dry. And it did say, play around with this kit before you add flowers with more detail to them. So I thought 5 minutes is enough, right? I went for it, guys. I had to go for it. Like, what else was I going to do? I went for it with the lavender heads. So again, I did what the instructions said, and I gave the felt pad a light mist of water. And equally, I gave the sheet a light mist of water. I just did both because I just wanted to make sure I didn't do anything completely wrong. I laid down my lavender heads in with the idea that if they do get flattened, I personally don't expect at this point, I didn't expect them to be like paper thin. I don't know, like again, the felt pad was deceiving because I thought, how is that going to crush these down to a flat flower press? I couldn't, guys. It's hard. You know me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around things. So I laid the cotton fabric down on top. At this point, it felt like I was making a pie. And then on top of that, again, a light mist of water, followed by the final felt pad, and then my outer plastic casing. I left enough room between the lavender heads because if it does flatten them out, then they won't touch each other. They won't come into contact with each other, and there won't be any overlapping and areas where they might not dry. And it's chunky at this point. Like I showed you there, the gap that is created by those lavender heads is chunky. So I can see right down in. So I wrapped around the rubber bands and into the microwave. It went for the exact time. I actually followed for the rows this time. 100 seconds, 80 seconds, 20 seconds on this one. Because they were bigger, they weren't flat, I thought, let me follow the directions for the bigger flowers. And immediately, as soon as I took it out, I realized just how flat it was. That gap that I showed you was gone. Everything was so flat and so squished. It was impressive. And look at this. It was crispy dry. Crispy dry. I didn't need, because these are quite big, I didn't need to pull the fabric to get them to release. Look how flat these are. Like, it's not the fact that I'm that easily pleased. It's the fact that I get so excited when I try something for the first time and it works. And also, I'm like, these are really flat. I know it sounds really crazy, guys, but these are all the thoughts that were going through my head when I was taking these out. I was like, wait, how are they so flat? They're like paper thin, flat, in between wool. Anyway, it worked a dream. They felt, to the touch, they felt bone dry, crunchy, crispy, dry. And I'm just crushing one up here for you to see if you can kind of see just how dusty it is. Like, even just crushing it, you could hear the crunch and feel just the dryness of it. I think this would be ideal if you're making like little potpourri bags, or, you know, when you make lavender pillows and you just want to dry lavender out for the sake of having it as decorative. Don't have to put it in resin. You could just do this for decorative purposes. Make some potpourri. Next up, I went back to the garden. I was going to leave it there, guys. I'm not going to lie. I was going to leave it there. And I was like, no, I can't. I need to do more. It became almost like an immediate addiction. Immediate. And it was at this point I wish I had more flowers in my garden, but I just simply don't. I'm not a very good plant mum. Okay, I'll be honest. I'm not a very good plant mum. What I do have are heyyy's. Now, giant heyyy's grow really well in my garden, and my giant heyyyy has just produced these stunning triangular shaped purple flowers, and I thought, well, they go with purple lavender, so let's just put them back in and do some more. I did exactly what the instructions told me to do. I sprayed my water on the felt pad, a little bit on the cloth. I laid my flowers down. I put another cloth over, and then the felt pad, followed by the final outer plastic casing. Now, there's a lot in here. Again, this is only one layer, but look at this gap. This gap is huge. It's only one layer, but we shall see what we shall see. I've wrapped my bands around it. This is 30 minutes later, so I brought it out of the microwave. I allowed it to fully cure. Dry, cure. See, guys, my brain. Fully dry before opening it up. It was fully cooled, really didn't feel any warmth coming from it at all. Fully dried, and look at this. I cannot cope with how thin. These are paper thin, crushed, absolutely crushed. And look at the colour. They have kept their colour because, you know, you've seen videos on my channel where I've pressed my flowers between books. I lay like tissue down and I do the whole book press thing. They lose their colour. Like after a week in a book, they're faded, they're jaded. The colour on these is crazy vibrant and they are bone dry. I still can't wrap my head around how adding water dries them out. Like, someone tell me the science. Gorgeous. Look at the colour. They are popping. They are vibrant. They are ready to go into resin. Can we even wrap our heads around that? I picked these flowers. I know we had the drying time, but I picked these flowers literally 30 minutes ago. All of maybe like 200 seconds in the microwave, and we're ready to put them in resin 30 minutes later because they're cooled down. I can't wrap my head around how game-changing this is. And I know I'm not the first to try this. I know there's thousands of videos already out here using these. For me, this particular one worked. I haven't tried any others, so I just want to let you know this is the only one I've ever tried. I have never tried any others. So if you have not been successful, I don't know any, I don't have answers. This worked for me. It was successful for me. I read the instructions and I read them twice and I followed them to a letter. Apart from the fact that, you know, wait until you know how to use it before you do bigger flowers. I didn't follow that instruction. I broke the rules, but unbelievable. This for me is a game changer. It makes me want to plant flowers. It makes me want to buy flowers, but I'm not going to do that. Am I going to do that? Am I going to do that? Oh, don't do that. It makes me want to be a flower mum, a plant mum and a flower mum, but making sure that I leave enough for the bees. I've loved it. I hope you found this really helpful. If you are interested in this at all, then the details are in the description box. Go ahead and grab one. I promise you it's worked. Again, please bear in mind, I've not tried it with bigger flowers, chunky roses, chunky tulips, anything like that. All I've tried it with are these flowers that you saw here in the video. So again, I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in the next video where I'm going to be putting these flowers into a purple ocean. Yes, you heard it here, a purple ocean. That was popular demand by you guys. We're going for a lavender stroke purple flower ocean. Who knows what that's going to look like? I don't. See you then. Bye.